You are listening to the Taps and Teas Show, weekly conversations for people passionate about marketing, golf, and craft beer. Marty is the co-founder of Bad Rhino, an award-winning digital marketing agency helping golf and craft beer brands get real results in social media marketing. Here is your host, Marty McDonald.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Taps and Teas. My name is Marty McDonald, and I'm the host of this show where we talk about craft beer, golf, and marketing. And continuing on with our 2020 year, just bringing on experts that I've gotten to know over the years through mastermind events, through doing other podcasts, and people in the industry that are just doing good things. And got one more to close out the year here. This is the last interview of 2020 of marketing related. And a good friend of mine that I've gotten to know through a mastermind group. He's really, really smart. What I like about Jack is he's very direct without like sounding like he's yelling at you. He's got a mild manner. He's just relaxed and he tells you really good information. And Jack Jostes is the CEO of a name I love, Ramblin' Jackson. It's a digital marketing agency based out in Boulder, Colorado. And he works with landscaping companies throughout the country, mainly to increase their lead generation through local SEO and digital branding. He has a book out there. I'll let him talk about that. And he also has a podcast, which I'll also let him talk about as we go through the show. But like I said, the one thing I like about Jack is he's very direct and he knows his stuff. He did a couple of presentations for the mastermind group that I'm in with him, as well as did one in person when we were out in Colorado about a month or so ago. And it was excellent. And the stuff that he puts through is stuff that any business, as you're listening to it, you can put in place. So don't worry about him just focusing on landscapers. That's just what he does. But if you listen to him, the information that he puts out there about really getting connection with the audience and connection with your potential clients and customers can help any business out. So without further ado, Jack, are you there?
Hey, Marty. Thanks for having me today.
All right. Well, since I gave you that intro, did I miss anything or do you want to add anything to it?
That was a glowing intro, and thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, man. It's good to have you on, and looking forward to it. So, tell everybody just a little bit about, landscaper comes to you. What are they looking for? What are their challenges, and how do you help them?
Yeah, so typically landscaping companies come to me, and the owner of the company is often frustrated because they're working too many hours. They are meeting with too many prospects and not enough of them are really qualified to buy from them. And they often spend many hours to figure that out. And what I help them do is dial in their sales process and their marketing so they actually meet with fewer leads overall, but higher quality leads who understand before they even meet through their marketing and through their website, what is the price range for landscaping? How long does it take? Those are things that people often don't understand. And the result is that landscapers spend more time with their family, they make more profit, and they enjoy their business more. And they often end up hiring people to help them with this. So that's rewarding to me is, helping these landscapers create something that produces that result for them and allows them to enjoy their business again.
That's awesome. Give them a little bit of a little piece of their life back, right?
Yeah, because you know how it is running your business, whether it's your agency or your brewery or whatever business your audience is listening to, it can take over your life, but it doesn't have to. And I think when you have your sales and marketing dialed in, running a business can be really enjoyable. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, it isn't. And they often don't realize that the marketing they're doing is creating a real offline, like real world impact for their business. Quick story. I had a client who actually loves golfing, and he does irrigation for some golf clubs down in California. He was spending 3-4 hours a day driving around because in California the traffic's crazy, meeting with everyone who called in. And when I did an audit for him, we realized that he had an old advertisement from like 10 years ago with an offer that he was still promoting for services he doesn't even offer anymore. And he was wondering why his calendar was so full of unqualified leads. And it's like, well, as you grow in your business, what you do, you get better at it. Who your ideal customer is changes. And if you don't keep your marketing up to date, it can bring in, bad results, old results.
No, that makes total sense. And sometimes in those businesses that we found over 10 years at Bad Rhinos working with those types of clients is that's exactly what's happening is they have an offer that's out there that is floating around somewhere. And sometimes those things are weird is like they have an old web page up that they put up when they hired some company 4 or 5 years ago and it's still valid. Like it's still out there. They never really shut it off, but their business changed and they just didn't have time to go back to it. Plumbers seem to be one of the ones that, have been the big ones for us that we've seen. Like, what do you mean you're getting all these calls and you don't have it on your website or anything? You find some random web page that's out there that somebody created for them that
Right.
still has everything. So no, that's true. That's an interesting one though. Having old offers out there. I think that's a good point to bring up for anybody listening is, check all your stuff, check your website, check what things have been out there over the years and make sure that if they are still out there, that they're still viable for you. So how did you get started in this whole marketing game?
Well, actually, I got started in marketing through playing music. I play mandolin, and I started a jam band when I was a senior in high school, which was, I don't know, 2003.
Mm-hmm.
And that year, MySpace came out, and we literally went from recording our demos on boom boxes to
Right.
squirreling away some money to get into a studio to get a CD, and then like you could upload MP3s to the internet. Like in a very short amount of time, the music industry changed, and I learned about marketing mainly just by figuring out how do I get my music on MySpace. And then when I was a freshman in college, Facebook came out and I still played in my band and I started managing our email list. And it was all purely just out of how do I get people to show up to see my band. And at that time it was Facebook, MySpace, email, literally passing around a piece of paper for people to sign up to get updates. And when I studied theater and journalism in college, and when I graduated, I realized, well, in a way, the economy tanked. No one was hiring journalists because the whole industry was shifting to digital, and there was a recession. And I realized that at that time that small businesses really needed help with writing and social media. And I couldn't find a job, honestly. So I just started doing freelance work. I worked briefly as an employee, as a milkman at a dairy
Mm-hmm.
farm, doing door to door sales. And I got really bored of that. I wanted to write. And kind of by accident, started a marketing agency, Ramblin' Jackson. Originally it was just me doing social media and writing. And eventually I started learning search engine optimization and later acquired another agency. And a few years in, I realized that I could build a real company doing this and I couldn't do it on my own. And that's when I started checking out Jason Swank's content, who has the mastermind where you and I met.
Mm-hmm.
That was it for me, was mainly by accident. What about for you, Marty? Was it a mistake that you started an agency like most people, or how did you get into this?
Yeah, I mean, the same way. I was just about to say, I think everybody is almost like an accidental agency owner, as far as, pulling things together and doing everything. How it started for me was same thing. It helped me out in my current job. And I just became enamored by the marketing side of it, the affiliate stuff that I was doing on the side. I would wind up putting more hours into that than my actual job some days. And that was just learning because I knew what I was doing as a headhunter. And I'm like, all right, let's get up, do this, and then, kind of call it a day. But at the same time, like, how can I make things work better? Like you were trying to get more people to see your band as well as hear your music. And then you start managing little things. I was doing the same thing. I had a whole bunch of emails and they were my prospects for headhunting. But then I was like, how do I get more emails? How do I get more people without, trying to just cold call or do other things that, were commonplace. And then this whole social media thing started coming over and all those things just kind of came together. And it was just like, wow, I have a side business that was affiliate marketing and consulting for small companies doing websites and email lists and all that sort of stuff. And the next thing you know, it's like you have like a mini side business that then eventually turned into my agency, and which was great. Like a lot of those things just kind of come in. And more I talk to other agency owners and, people that we both know, it's not like a common way. It's, you're almost doing it, like you said, in a freelance way of, hey, I like this stuff, but how do I get a job? How do I start a business in it? And the next thing you know, if you're good at it, people will hire you. And it's almost like everybody's an accidental agency owner.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome.
So in running your agency and just having a one focus, what do you like about working with landscapers, and how did you get into the landscaping just arena?
Well, the way that I got into it was I do a lot of public speaking. And at one point, I did a lot of public speaking for Constant Contact email marketing company. And I was hired to speak at a green industry conference in Colorado, the Pro Green Expo. And I ended up getting a lot of contacts and clients and really enjoyed working with them, partly because I used to work at a plant nursery and garden center in high school and college, Pesci's Plant Nursery, or Pesci's Flowers in Des Plaines, Illinois. And so I hadn't ever really thought about focusing on a specific industry, but I just naturally got good results for them, and they referred people. And when I reached a certain point in my business where I knew that in order to really grow, I needed to focus on something. And originally it was local SEO and websites, and we still worked with every kind of local business in the area. And then I felt like I kind of reached the cap on that. And when I wanted to focus on a vertical, on an industry, I looked at my revenue and I realized that a lot of my highest paying clients were green industry businesses, and they were getting amazing results, and I enjoyed working with them. So it was those three things. There was profit, there was demand. We were getting results for them because people look on the internet for landscapers, for garden centers, for lawn care companies. And I just I just enjoy working with them. It's fun. And I understand what they're doing, and I enjoy learning about landscaping. And sometimes people say to me, "Oh, that must be boring working with only landscapers." And it's like, well, the geography of the United States is pretty different. Everywhere you go, there's something different, whether it's access to water or wildlife, certain pests. You know, to me it's fascinating, and while what's great is that it's similar enough that I have a very repeatable process, and it still allows for us to produce work that's very customized for each person based on their location and who they like to work with.
Yeah, it makes, I think when you get into one or two industries, you can really start to see it and you kind of feel for their business. And then it helps you, I think, we have a couple of different areas that we're very proficient in. And then the other areas have been areas that we've been referred into. And not that we're not proficient in them. It's just that, one minute you're working on, an e-commerce, play for athletic wear, and then the next thing you know, you're working on a box store, which is just trying to push out different products via box service monthly subscription. But it's a little bit different because it's really super niche down into one area versus working with a Fortune 100 company, which we do. But the areas that we're in with craft beer and golf, you start to see different pieces come up, even though they might be in different parts of the country, different types of facilities, different types of products, different types of training. For the golf side, there start to come common themes and certain struggles. And some of that's with the customer or client. But then on the other side of it becomes, oh, well, you do this at your facility. So how does your PGA instructor handle their classes? And then, oh, well, they handle their classes this way, but we also have a bigger issue because our facility holds weddings. And then you're talking to them about that. But then the next time and the next time and the next time, you get more proficient in their business, and it becomes fun because you can talk to them on a level where they're like, wow, you have an expertise in this and you're going to help us with our marketing. It's like, yep. And it puts you on the same level. So I'm sure you have some of those same feelings when you work with landscapers, no matter where they are in the country.
Yeah, definitely. It just keeps getting better the more clients that we have, and we're able to learn more and more about them that we can share with other people. We also do have an exclusivity program, though, where we're able to only work with one person per city if they're in our higher level level of work together. So that
Yep.
way, we one of the things we do is a mastermind where they can then meet with each other and not have any real concern of sharing something that their local competitor is going to go and implement.
Yeah, no, that's huge when you can do that. And I remember you mentioned that. I think that's really interesting. Plus, you have the exclusivity, which makes it, nice. Plus, when you put them all together, they start sharing everything and stuff they might have learned from you, or actually just saying, Jack and his team do a great job. So it gives you, some other fun stuff to talk about where they're just recommending you more and more.
Right. Yeah, that does happen.
Yeah. Yeah, they did this for us. Oh, why didn't you tell us about that? We've had that happen just on calls and other stuff. It's not really a formal mastermind, but you get the whole idea.
Hey, if you're enjoying what you're hearing on the show and want more, head on over to tapsandtees.info and get our free report with game-changing tips and strategies straight to your inbox. Just enter your info and stop being stuck with no marketing plan.
So as far as that, like what works best these days, minus local search, because I know that crushes it for, providers like landscapers, but what types of things that have shocked you that are working for them now in 2020?
Well, so one of the things that local search for sure does work, and I think that a requirement for local search to work that people often don't realize is having strong reviews on Google. Because
Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking, I don't have any clients who aren't getting amazing like financial results when they've implemented. They have a great website, great local SEO, and at least 10 Google reviews. The only people I know who are not getting the result have, I don't know, like 3 Google reviews or a negative review average. So I'm just seeing that reviews continue to be a a factor in even really big landscaping sales. So assuming you have those things and you're getting traffic to your website, something that's working really well is a pricing page. So
Mm-hmm.
we've started producing pricing pages for our clients, and we've even gotten picked up in rich snippets on Google for queries like how much does landscaping cost in whatever city, and we're like the featured snippet. So people are
Nice.
definitely Googling that, but more importantly, I believe that the pricing page helps people actually understand how to become a customer. Every contractor I work with says, well, I want more qualified leads, and all the leads from the internet are not qualified. And it's like, well, in order for somebody to be qualified, you need to qualify them. And if
Right.
they don't know the information, then you're just going to get a lot of leads, and people are often confused. Then they go to sites like Home Advisor or House or I don't know, Lowe's or Home Depot even. Some of those sites have information about how much should projects cost, and they're often like a tenth of what people really need to spend. So by having that pricing information directly on your website and creating brackets, we found that helps people on that first phone call when they're like, hey, Marty, before we schedule a visit at your home, would it be okay if we talked about the budget for your landscaping?
Mm-hmm.
By the way, have you reviewed our pricing page? Oh, no, I haven't. Okay, well, great. Go to jackslandscaping.com/pricing. And you can see, in this bracket, you can get your front yard redone. It's going to be between, 10 and 15,000 or whatever their price range is. And they getting to that kind of bracketing and price agreement sooner in the sales process,
Mm-hmm.
I believe helps the customer and the contractor prevent either one of them getting frustrated that it's not a fit because of money. And just
Awesome.
putting a range out there. You don't need to put a like itemized list. I don't think we're quite at the point of buying it online, although I have seen some people do just the landscape design part being sold, and certainly lawn care and things like that are being sold. But that's working really well, the pricing page. The other thing that I believe a pricing page does is it helps a business train someone else to do sales, or you can train someone else to do that first phone call where they literally, like the front desk person pulls up the pricing page. and says, great, our price ranges are on our website. Do these make sense for you?
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
It's not really a lead generation thing, but it's more of a lead qualification. So once they get to the website, I always ask people, what do you wish your clients knew before the first meeting with them? And they always say, oh, I wish they understood how much it actually costs to do landscaping. And a lot of people will, when you ask them how much does it cost, they'll say, well, it depends. But they have the it depends conversation, thousands of times a year. And you can put it you can help people understand, what does it depend on? How many square feet is your yard? What, do you live on a hill? Do you have a lot of tree? Like, there's all these variables that you can just write down and help people understand.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And that's an interesting thing. I mean, everyone gets squirrely sometimes when you talk about pricing, but you're right. If you want more qualified leads, sometimes you definitely need the information out there to at least guide the conversation. And I think that's a big part of it. So Jack, tell me a little bit about how one man made $1 million by quitting beer.
Yeah, great. Yeah. So, so I am the man who made $1 million by quitting beer. And so here's the story. So it's $1 million of revenue, first of all. So we all know that there are expenses after revenue and running an agency. But for the longest time, for several years, my goal was to break $1 million in annual revenue. And it was also my goal to publish a book. And I kept missing it. And I missed it, in fact, 2 years in a row. I set a deadline that I think was actually realistic, and I missed it. Now, it wasn't because of beer, but at the time I really enjoyed drinking beer. So I it was more of like a reward for myself. Like, all right, Jack, when you have your published book in hand, you can have a beer. And until then, no alcohol. So I thought that it would be a month or 2 or 3. And at this time I had 5 employees, and in 1 month, 2 of them quit, right? So suddenly my workload massively increased. I also have 2 kids who were both under 2 years old. They were 14 months apart. So it was a really challenging time for me personally. And by quitting drinking, I found that I was able to sleep better and wake up and get work done. And the book ended up taking me a whole year to complete from that point. And once I reached that point, I felt so much better having not had any alcohol that I decided to keep going. And that was coming up on, I guess, 4 years ago that I quit drinking, and we're coming up on 3 years of having the book published. And so within that year, we broke $1 million in revenue. I finished the book, and it really propelled my career.
That's cool. I like that story. And it's in this podcast, obviously we're talking craft beer, golf, and then I always like to interview people that have stopped drinking. And I think it's important because, not because I'm saying like everybody that listens to this podcast has a drinking issue. That's not what I'm going at. But I think people need to hear other sides of things a lot of times. It's like if you feel that way and you're missing goals or you're missing other life events or things like that, and you might not feel like you have a problem, but it's just like 1 or 2 little things, it can really propel you sometimes to like make those changes, and I think a lot of times when I talk to people that I classify as like big drinkers, what you find is they compartmentalize that time. So like they might appear to be big drinkers, but they're actually like, yeah, this is my 1 day a month where I have a few more beers, and they're not like a consistent drinker. And it's really pulled back the curtain for me the more and more I've worked in different industries to see how successful people that you're like, man, that guy seems like he's partying all the time. And then you realize like, oh, just so happens to be in these little pockets, and I just happen to be there at the same time. So it was like purposeful. And once you change that, you can definitely hit those goals. So I'm glad you're the guy that had the $1 million. I was worried about that when you put it in the notes. I was like, is he going to talk about somebody else, or is he the guy?
Yeah, no, I'm the guy. And, for me, it was actually on Instagram that I found a a company called No Beers Who Cares. So if you search the hashtag No Beers Who Cares, around this time somehow I found them, and they had a 3-month challenge, and that was where I started. I was like, all right, I'm gonna try this, for 3 months and see what happens. And because I also thought that I would finish my book in that time. And then I had a business coach, and he said, well, Jack, go for 6 months and see what happens then, because that's where you'll find out if you have a chemical dependence on it. And I swear, man, the 6 month was the hardest for some reason with me. And that's when I knew that it, for me, unfortunately, it was a bad habit. I don't know that it was ever nothing crazy ever happened. It was never, anything like that, but it was definitely a daily habit. And for me, honestly, the sleep deprivation at the time of having no kids or having 2 kids was just, not sleeping. Because when you drink alcohol, it takes an hour for your body to process each drink. So if I had 2 or 3 craft beers, and then I was lucky to get, 3 to 5 cumulative hours of sleep, it was like going to work on 2 hours of sleep was just brutal. So anyways, I love craft beer, and if you have ever thought about not drinking, try it for 3 months, see what happens, and if you don't have a problem, cool. Not everyone does.
Yeah, I used to take off 3 months every year. I still kind of do when you map it out, but 3 right in a row. Used to do January, February, and March, and then I would come back for St. Patty's Day, and then I would stop in April for that month. And then, I used to do that all the time, and now it's just a little bit more spread out, but you always want to do that. And it's always interesting to talk to everybody because everybody has different things, good, bad, or indifferent. So it's always fun. But just since we're in 2020 and as we wrap this thing up, in terms of COVID and all that, how does that impact the landscapers and impact your business, if at all?
Well, last September 2019, we as a company went fully remote at Ramblin' Jackson. We had a really big, expensive office that no one was using, and I started hiring employees. We have 10 employees around the country, and so we went fully remote a good 6 months before all of the shutdowns and things happened. So I kind of felt prepared to run a remote company. Right. And I feel fortunate that our clients' businesses have stayed open. Like we still have some clients out that who are not in the landscape industry, and it was very chaotic, honestly, between updating their hours, like simply updating store hours for people for like, several months. It was kind of crazy, and it was different in every city, county, state of what was happening. So it was very chaotic. We worked very, normally we have longer project timelines where we're working hard every day, but there isn't quite as much urgency of like sudden fires to put out. So for us, it was suddenly a lot of little digital fires to put out. And one of the things that we did was we helped people put pop-ups on their website and create messaging around COVID and are they open or not? How are they handling it? Making Google posts on their Google My Business, making, Facebook updates. So the whole team really rallied together to help our clients with this kind of all hands on deck urgent work. And that lasted for like a solid 6 weeks. And, sales definitely slowed down for us, and they were impacted for a lot of our clients. And then what started to happen was travel, basically ceased, and homeowners started spending more money on landscaping than ever. There's like a record. If you look at the Google trends for landscaping or garden centers or gardening, this spring was, normally spring is busy, but this spring was like almost 50% higher than a record in the last 10 years. So for many of our clients, their season has been delayed because people started buying again in the summer. So right now, and the other thing that's happening is the weather is warm. A lot of our landscapers are still working. So it definitely impacted us. It slowed us down a little bit, but we were able to retain like 97% of our clients, which I feel really fortunate about but part of it was because we just worked like crazy to do whatever we could to help them.
That's
So
great.
it was stressful. It was hard. I couldn't imagine having my business shut down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine that.
Yeah, I mean, I had to deal with a lot of it. A lot of people that do listen to this that are in craft beer know it full well, and a lot of people in golf too were shut down in certain states. So there's a lot of change, and it's always interesting. There's always a little bit of ebb and flow, but we have some clients too that are in home improvement, and they saw like just astronomical numbers where people who weren't taking vacations, that was like the main one that you heard, like, well, we're not doing a vacation this year, so we're going to take the whatever multi-$1,000 they were going to spend, and they put that all into some small home improvements, and then some, went full boat and got into some bigger things. So it's been interesting that side. As we wrap this up, thanks for the insight on the COVID. It's no fun, but that's purpose of talking to a lot of marketers that I brought onto the show, just to give everybody a little bit of perspective. And if you got to this far in the show, I mean, Jack's giving you some good information, like local search. It's key for craft breweries. It's key for golf courses and golf instruction. Getting things out there in terms of pricing. You don't necessarily need to give everything away, but you want some guidelines so you have people that walk in your tap room or inquire about, certain things that you might provide at your golf facility, that you have an idea that they know where they're coming from. And last but not least is adjusting, talking about pandemic and things that you have to do, putting pop-ups on your website, making sure that things are still moving in the right direction, even if things are slow, but at least they're moving in the right direction and people don't have a problem contacting you or finding information about your hours and things like that. So that's why I've been bringing everybody on during this time. And, we're finally at the end. Jack is the last one. We'll be doing marketing next year in 2021, but be more as a series, not just kind of the main show. And we're back to beer and golf finally here at the very beginning of 2021. So with that, Jack, tell everybody where they can, find you and, online and what else you have going on. Feel free to plug away.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. You can follow me at Jack Jostes. That's Jack, Jostes. Find me there, send me a message, say hi. And the book that I ended up writing is called Get Found Online, The Local Business Owner's Guide to Digital Marketing. And it is written in a way that if you run a golf course, I actually have a golf course example in there. I have some brewery examples, and you can actually get a copy of the book for free on my website. You just have to pay for shipping. It's ramblinjackson.com/book. So that's ramblinjackson.com/book, and connect with me there. I wrote that book. I have all kinds of interviews and case studies with carpet cleaning companies, restaurants. For years, I worked with a variety of different businesses. And I think one of the things that you can all do that's free is ask all of your customers to leave online reviews. Even if you're closed right now, if you can message people and, whether through your social media, through your email, think, what can you do to be best prepared for when things open back up again? And being the best reviewed in your town, really I believe this for any industry, is one of the best things you can do. So there's a whole chapter on reviews. So check it out, ramblinjackson.com/book.
That's awesome, Jack. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Like I said, your last marketing interview for 2020, so we always finish it out really well. And go check out Jack's book. There's a lot of good information that he just gave you today. So I really appreciate it, Jack. Our next episode, rounding out the year, we have 2020 craft beer review and a 2020 golf marketing review, as well as small business review. They'll all be in December. And then, we'll kind of wrap up this funky year for sure. And hopefully for bigger, better, brighter things in 2021. But if you got this far, thanks for listening. Jack, thanks for being on. And I'll see you on the next episode of Taps and Tees. Thanks, everybody.
This is the podcastfactory.com.